You've got big, bold plans for creating an online business with your expertise. The possibilities are endless, but you need a software platform that has everything: courses, bundles, memberships, live streams, community integrations, a mobile app, and live tech support from real-life humans. Does that even exist? Yes! Introducing Marvelous, the world's most beautiful and easeful teaching platform. Check us out at heymarvelous.com.
We know the importance of nature and fresh air in our lives, and we take advantage of it when we can here. I'm in here working and practicing and playing and recording, and then I'm just I gotta go outside. And it's the best reset button ever. And when you go to the city or I go to other people's places or whatever, and I'm like, where's the reset button? This is crazy. There's no moment. You can maybe go to the roof deck for a minute or somewhere, but just having nature around all the time is calming, soothing. I mean, I love being home.
Have you ever dreamed of making a radical shift? What does it take to build a more intentional life? What is gained from reconnecting with yourself, with community, and with the natural world? I'm Alyssa Hessler. I've spent the last decade meeting with people all over the world who have made remarkable transitions in their lives. How did they do it? What did they sacrifice? And what have they learned? Stepping away from convention isn't easy, but we all have the power to reclaim the things that we've lost, to slow down, to change course, to create the life we want for ourselves and for future generations. The Urban Exodus podcast shares practical advice and inspirational words to embolden and guide you on your own journey. These are the stories of those brave enough to venture down the road less traveled. This is the Urban Exodus. Urban Exodus is community-supported programming. Please consider sponsoring an episode or making a contribution so we can keep these conversations going. The easiest way to contribute is to click the support button on the top of urbanexodus.com. You can also become a member of the Urban Exodus community to peruse our archives of hundreds of photo stories and interviews of people who left city life, or subscribe to Apple Podcast Premium to have access to bonus episodes, our rapid-fire interviews with guests, and our new mini podcast, Ditch the City, where I answer listeners' questions and offer practical advice on a whole myriad of topics. If you have a question for an upcoming episode that you'd like us to consider, please send us a DM on Instagram or through our Contact Us page. Thank you for helping me continue to do this work. I couldn't do it without all of you. And if you haven't already, we would really love it if you'd leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever service you listen on. And please recommend Urban Exodus to your friends. I'm excited to invite you to my conversation with KT and Marco Benevento. KT is a metalsmith, jewelry artist, and t-shirt designer. And Marco is a pianist, songwriter, and record producer who has been a fixture of the New York experimental music, rock, and jazz scene for the past 2 decades. He is the founder and recording engineer of Fred Short, a recording studio at their home in upstate New York. And he's a member of the rock groups Benevento-Russo Duo and Joe Russo's Almost Dead. I photographed Marco and KT for Urban Exodus back in 2016. When I first met them, they were just a few years into their transition from New York City to the woods of Woodstock, New York. They had both hoped that eventually they would find their way out of New York City, but it wasn't until Marco had made it to a level in his career where he didn't need to live in a city to survive that they felt confident to make the leap. It took the couple nearly 3 years of house hunting with their baby girls in tow before they finally found their perfect place in the country. COVID threw the Beneventos a major curveball when Marco's touring income that their family was dependent on completely dried up. KT and Marco put their heads together and came up with a number of creative ways to stay afloat. Marco collaborated and recorded with other artists, hosted virtual concerts, and started a local outdoor concert series. KT began designing t-shirts, making more jewelry, and hosting pop-ups. Her local Woodstock community, that she had cultivated through years of helping and volunteering, championed her work and were her biggest supporters. This is a story about making creative pivots, being held and supported by community in hard times, and the amazing way music fosters deeper connection and compassion. I'm absolutely thrilled to have on the podcast KT and Marco Benevento. We have just been chatting and laughing together because it's been like maybe 8 to 10 years since we saw each other. And I was sitting in your studio there and we had the best visit. And you guys were recent kind of transplants and so were we. And we had so much to talk about and had so much fun. And so it's really great to reconnect with you now that we've both had the passage of time to like find roots in our community. I'm really excited to just talk to you and hear about your journey because it's been a long time. So welcome. First off, I would love if both of you would just give a little bit of your backstory because I know some of it, but I actually don't know each of your individual backstories. I know you're like, meeting one another, but where did you grow up and just kind of the paths that you both taken that brought you together?
Yeah, no big deal. Just go.
Summarize your whole life in like a nutshell, just like a little.
All right. We'll do a quick one. Marco Benevento, New Jersey, suburbs, went to the city a lot, went to college in Boston, played music all my life, loved music, and then started a band, started touring, and met Katie through mutual friends and lived in Brooklyn for a while. And now we moved out of the city after having 2 kids. And here we are in lovely upstate New York. And that's the quickest I can do with that.
I grew up all over the Midwest. We moved every probably like 3 years to another Midwestern city in a family of 4 sisters total. A lot of girls, and spent a little time abroad. I came back to the States for college and started going to see live music of my people that were my age, which is how I met Marco. We fell in love and the rest, then in Brooklyn to here. So that's when we met. And then like I lived on the West Coast. My parents lived on the West Coast. So whenever our friends' bands would play anywhere on the West Coast that came from the East, we'd be like, oh, you can stay with us when you come to Oregon. You can stay with our parents when you play in the Bay Area. And everybody just did that. And so it kind of became like a family of rapscallion vagabonds that all hung out together.
What did your lives look like when you were living in New York? You're newlyweds in New York. Maybe your first child has arrived. What did your life look like in New York then?
Well, it looked like a Brooklyn apartment with a lot of pianos and keyboards stuffed in every room.
Strollers
and
changing table.
And we were definitely outgrowing our little apartment. The apartment was shrinking and all the gear was piling up and we needed more space to live in as well as more space for me to have like a studio or a place to work.
For me, it was, okay, I have this husband who's a musician. There are musicians coming over all the time. We have this baby. Okay, there's like 4 people sleeping in random places in this apartment. And our baby wakes up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I would just be like, okay, we have to leave. We got to leave until like 10 because no one's going to be awake until 10. They've been out all night. I'm walking the streets of Brooklyn thinking to myself, why are coffee shops and like muffin places or anything open at 6 o'clock in the morning? Nothing's open till like 8. And you're just pushing your stroller around like, okay, how long is that going to take? And it was just like a lot. It seemed like a lot of extra work.
Yeah,
right?
I also had a van. So I'd like pull up to the Brooklyn apartment with like a van full of gear at like 3 a.m. and be like,
and people.
I have to park this, unload all the gear, and park the. The city is just a cram. It's just tough, and it's so expensive to have a comfortable place to accommodate all the stuff that you have.
Let's talk about you, Katie, because now you have moved into the new space. Because the last time I saw you, you were what we call in the weeds of motherhood, when if you are a creative person, even if you have time, it's so hard to turn the muscle back on to create when you're in it. So I know you said at that time, you're like, I used to be a jewelry designer and someday I will again. And now you are. So I'd love for you to talk about that and starting that back up.
Yeah, so I did actually, before the pandemic hit, I was making a lot of jewelry and selling it online around this area. I found the time once both of my kids were in school for a full day. I also have a sort of an Achilles heel for volunteering. So at their school, I volunteered so much because it is a school that parent involvement is very important to. It was a slow progression, but I kind of got into okay, KT Benevento has a jewelry line, this is what it is, producing it and making it and selling it. And then I bought a silk screening kit and I was like, oh, I really like doing this. Also, so my studio in the basement was my jewelry studio was going pretty well. And then I started silk screening and making all of Marco's merch for his tours. That's why I started doing it. And then it was just kind of like a slow roll into just designing my own merchandise and selling that also with my jewelry. So it is sort of metamorphosized into two entities at the moment. And I gotta say silk screening and doing that and designing t-shirts basically has been really good, going really well. And I'm not sure if it was the pandemic, right? And other artists and people that support, homesteaders and crafters and makers, that made it sort of float us a little bit. There was a lot of support during that time, and it's continued, and it helped it all grow bigger. That I'm like, oh, okay, jewelry is really wonderful, and I do love doing that. I've sort of my studio is good, the jewelry studio is good, the silk screening studio is good. I've been spending more time silk screening just mainly because it's shorter amounts of time it takes. It's easier to do. The materials cost less to make stuff. I'm gearing up for the holiday season coming up because I do sell a lot of stuff during that time. But I did get into a point where both the studios were combined, and it was I was busy all the time doing both things. All the time. And I read back on the Urban Exodus article of oh, I want to have a jewelry studio and and all these lofty thoughts that I had at that time, or that I thought were lofty. And reading back on it, I'm like, oh, I totally did that.
You did that. Yeah.
I did that. I figured it out and I did it. And it's moving in all different directions. So I'm trying to focus.
That's a big thing. And you have built a recording studio. I think that there's a lot of fear associated with leaving a city. You're going to leave all of your opportunities behind you, and your world's going to get way smaller, and it's going to be harder to maybe build a business like what you have created. What would you say to those people to just, talk about the steps that you took, even the hard parts of that journey?
Well, I was just going to say, maybe we got lucky on a cool town, very music oriented sort of town, arts oriented town, community driven. Like Katie was saying about our Achilles heel of volunteering too much. There's a lot of people that are volunteering and making a great community here. So I guess I would say, do your research, make sure if you want to split town, don't just go to some random, I don't know, check it out. We had the opportunity to move to a ton of other places, and I'm glad that we sort of waited. It took us 3 years to find the spot. And, if one person likes it and the other person doesn't, you still got to look for another spot. You got to really get it together. So I would just say find a good spot. And I feel like that has added to our success. And I feel like we've had a lot of success. But the community is a big reason, why it is like that. And also Katie getting involved and and going to the school and like poking her nose in there and being like, what's going on? And, ultimately it is what you make of it. But I would say, yeah, I definitely say don't hesitate. It is a little tricky now after the pandemic. Like a lot of prices have gone up and a lot of people want to leave the cities. So it's kind of interesting. But, if you want some more space and some more room, with some more obligations, it's good.
I feel like wherever we would have landed, we would have found and created and cultivated the kind of life that we were looking to create. We just happened to land in a town that already had that going on between its citizens, but so many people are leaving. Like, it's the urban exodus. Like, so many people are leaving those places that more remote towns are getting an influx of like cool, creative, or entrepreneurial sort of people. And with the internet, it's an amazing tool to have to go to meetings or sell your art or market your new product or whatever it is. It's an amazing thing.
Would you say that of your clients now, the people that you work with, are a lot of them local based on the community that you've cultivated in your area, or have you expanded beyond that?
For me personally, with my silk screening, it's totally been local. Jewelry is still it's people all over the country. Really not, a little bit around outside of the US, but it's mostly the jewelry goes further, but the silk screening is local. It's amazing. I can walk into my town and be like, oh my God, look, 2 people right there with shirts that I made, or and clients, my friends and other people being like, oh, you do small runs of prints. Can you make shirts for my bakery, or can you do stuff for this? And so that's been really good.
Calling all small business owners. Are you looking to expand your customer base beyond the reach of your local community? Speak to our loyal audience of over 38,000 listeners by sponsoring an episode of the Urban Exodus podcast. For more information, visit urbanexodus.com/podcast. You got involved in your community, you built real community where you were, and now a lot of your sales are based in your community, but then you have the kind of wider reach, and over time that will build. But the power of making community and being involved in your community once you get there, I think that's, especially if you want to build your own business to be successful. And I know that, during the pandemic, all touring stopped and musicians make most of their money touring. How did you weather that time, and what were the goods and what were the bads?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, everybody, it was we were oh, my job depends on everything that we shouldn't be doing right now. We figured out that one of the first things I did was a concert in my friend's backyard that was 20 of my friends are going to pay this much. Can you play from...
Or fans. It was really your fans.
Fans, right. It was fans. And I was sure, I'll come play on the patio. And I got some money. And then they're you want to do it again? And literally started like that. And I did it another friend's backyard. And then I did some online concerts with a bunch of people that were hosting that stuff. I did some streaming concerts solo at home. I did everything I could to make some money. And it was weird. It was definitely scary and strange. We got a loan from, the PPP thing, because our business was basically not a business because of it all. I mean, I made it work. Every week we thought of merch things on Bandcamp. We would make a T-shirt. Yeah, exactly. And
piano key necklaces.
We were
photographs.
It was
what can we make?
We would try to go to the grocery store once every 10 days. We didn't eat meat for a year. We're saving money, anyway. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I hustled. I did whatever I could. It was very strange, but also it was kind of cool to feel the fans come out of the woodwork a little, oh, this person wants a hand, the music to this song handwritten, and they'll pay you a lot for it, or I was like, I'll write out my music, and or people took lessons from me that weren't even piano players. Like, any musicians would just like want to talk about stuff. I'm like, do you want to talk about music? Or he's like, no, I just kind of want to talk about the time I saw you in LA on that tour. So it was like, I did like a cooking show even. Actually.
Yeah.
I was like out there on
hustling
all the platforms.
Hustling.
That was Marco Benevento does cooking lessons, does piano lessons, I did like private concerts, and like I made lemonade for sure. We made it happen.
He has good fans. He has good loyal fans that knew when that all like the people that love music and like go to music for their church. Basically, like at that same time, they couldn't go to live shows, but they could support musicians in that way, and they totally did.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
It was really quite a remarkable thing.
Yeah, there were some
fans just would like pay him, be like, "We're so sorry you can't play," and just pay him.
Yeah, and there were, it would be like a husband and a wife and their little 5-year-old kid, just like, I don't know, just play piano, and like I would just play whatever, and I'd say, hey, what do you want to hear? It was kind of surreal, looking back at it now, but we needed a way to connect because we couldn't connect, and people were like reaching out to their friends who were musicians and trying to get their personal fix or whatever. And I was there to give it to them because I wasn't doing anything. We made it happen. And then slowly, concerts came back, outdoor concerts, nobody backstage, like all that crazy stuff. And then here we are now, fast forward to kind of everything basically back open. I mean, my tour schedule is back to where it was the last time I saw you, like 150 shows a year, essentially.
Really, like, I was making a lot of stuff. We were hanging out with our kids a lot, right? Like, we had an 8th grader and a 6th grader at that time. So they needed to be like, basically we were homeschooling them, even though they had Zoom with their teachers. It was also crazy. We were doing a lot of that. And then there was piano lessons every day. Everybody would take piano lessons from Marco, me as well. That we
That's
like,
right.
we played. We did a lot of playing music, and kind of like our friend owns a spot that had an outdoor sort of eatery during that summer, where every weekend I would go and just like sell all my wares, set up a table and sell stuff. And it was really kind of seemed like simple and fruitful and like fun and community, even though we weren't supposed to really be like two together. It sort of built our community even more because the people that came out and supported and like did that for each other safely, right? We're all outside. It was a really wonderful time to bond even more with our community that we've already had, that I think it really kind of like brought us to a place where we're like, oh, right, we all got each other. Like, there's gonna be nobody's gonna fall through the cracks, or like nothing's gonna be too terrible for anybody, because this is a large community of people that really love each other. And then we started, I don't know if you know this, but in June, Marco threw a festival. It was sort of like after COVID, and we could all like gather and be together. And he put together a festival that we had the Benevento family band, where we all cousins, and Marco and I, and even his dad was part of it, that we all played a set of music together for a paying audience, which was very frightful.
That's right. People paid to come see you.
Yeah.
Sing. No, that was great.
So we've been like trying to, right, like music is sort of, I think like playing music in college and liking it, and then being married to this really successful, wonderfully talented musician, and all of my friends are super talented, great musicians that I was like, oh. And I'm like momming it for a long time and doing jewelry and other art that I am just like, oh, music, that's like my side, that's like a wayside hustle. Like it's not even a hustle, it's just like for fun. So getting back into it a little bit.
In the pandemic, I started singing again, and I was in bands forever. And I studied music and was a jazz singer for a time and was in like electronica and rock and roll bands and stuff. But again, the people who are musicians that were going to be musicians forever kind of like rose to the top. The people that were like, I'm scared to jump head into this, or like, maybe I don't want to do this as my job, completely stopped. And it's so hard to get back into it, but it's so joyful and makes me smile and puts me in a flow state. And there are so many things that music for me is what art or drawing or like cartooning or reading or writing is for other people. And I think that we like put things off that bring us joy. And I wondered what that has been like for you to reconnect with music again.
It has been really wonderful. And music is a thing. I found out this about myself, just like reconnecting with it this like from January to June when we played our gig with the Benevento family band. Like I really like to have solidarity with other people that are also like, we don't know what we're doing. And we're all like, okay. But then Marco's like, yeah, you do. You know what you're doing. And he's like playing and he's like, you guys are great. And we're like, not great. Let's go practice. Let's go get a singing lesson.
They're not quite. A lot of my cousins are like can play a little bit, but not really. I'm like, put your finger on this fret. Like
right, and I like being in that with them makes it feel really wonderful and good, and like puts me in the flow state. But
you're overcoming fears too, and just like going into it.
All together. But when it's like just Marco and I, like I've always just played around with playing guitar or drums or singing or whatever when he's playing, but I would never perform that. You probably wouldn't want me to anyway.
No, I would.
Like having like all these, like it was like 5 amateurs and Marco was like so wonderful to have that experience. And he has a really wonderful family of cousins that I'm like, okay, can we start working on our set for next year now?
Well, it's so cool that now you actually throw your own festival. And I noticed that about you even when we met 8 to 10 years ago, where like you are very involved in the business of music, which I don't think a lot of musicians, like you get kind of separated from it by, I don't know, labels or management companies. And I wondered what your kind of music job is like from a day-to-day basis.
Oh, I talk to my manager at least 2 or 3 days a week, and we're figuring out what we're doing. I mean, I basically know, a lot of it is like figuring the calendar out, especially after the pandemic. Just like bands are just going for it, just trying to get back on the road, trying to hold these dates, want to tour on these specific times. So basically a lot of what I'm doing these days is just planning ahead. And like, I know my schedule, this seems crazy, to the end of 2023. We're just working that out of when to tour. I have my band that I tour with, and I also tour with a band called Joe Russo's Almost Dead, and the acronym is JRAD, and we play all the music of the Grateful Dead. And I don't know if I was in that band when you came to visit us.
I don't think that you were, but then I had mentioned your name to someone and they were like, oh, he's in the Grateful Dead band. And I was like, what? Oh, no, I don't think you're right. And then I Googled it and I was like, oh, yeah.
That is, I would say that's a pretty huge thing for me that's happened since last time I saw you. Because I'm, 40 shows a year, 50 shows a year with those guys, and we're playing big venues like Red Rocks and, for thousands of people, and it's super fun, and it's the Grateful Dead, so it's...
The fans are built right in.
There, we got it. It's like, it's the best great music all around, from crazy experimental music, almost jazz, kind of weird stuff, to like Sugar Magnolia, just like great tunes. So that's, it's a whole spectrum of music, and it's really fun. And it's with all my friends who I've known for so long. So that fills up the schedule. So I tour with J-Rad and with my own band, and just trying to figure out, there's only, 52 weekends in a year. So just trying to figure out the best times. So, I mean, if I'm doing 100 almost 150 shows a year, it's like I'm playing on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like just touring around the country and doing all sorts of random other small gigs. But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. And of course, this studio has allowed me to have some more people here to record and do stuff like that. But it's kind of the same old thing, just like figuring out touring and putting out music, and like you were talking about earlier about social media, figuring out like a good post or a good video or a good song, or all that is the hustle of all that stuff, which I mean, I can do.
You seem to post everything.
It's okay. I mean, everything. It's definitely like a thing, and like whatever. It's what you got to do. Some musicians and some bands are like more on it than others, and I don't know. I might not be crazy on it, but I'm there. You can find me.
I wondered if you guys could describe your home, your studio, the landscape. I know that before, when I was there, you were dreaming of peacocks, and I know that you have gotten some peacocks now. You had goats when I was there that you used to take for walks. What creatures do you keep? What does your home look like now?
Well, we got the peacocks.
How many peacocks do you have?
We have the goats, and we have peacocks. We have 6 peacocks.
Are they all male peacocks?
There's one lucky lady. Yeah, we have peacocks. We got the goats, we got chickens, and we built a big sort of a peacock palace for them outside. It's a giant place where they all live. But that's it. That's all. Did we have a cat when you were visiting us?
You had a cat. Do you still have the 2 goats?
Yes,
yeah.
Still have the 2 goats. Yeah,
exact same goats?
Same goats.
Yeah.
Oh, they're really cute. That's awesome. And there's a pond on your property. And I guess now the garage is your recording studio, which is amazing. You guys mentioned already that there was this, kind of big influx of people during the pandemic. We definitely felt it here. Property values here probably gone up like 40 to 30% since the pandemic, which is pretty crazy, to the degree that, people that were working in this community before, that were saving up to buy a house, like now can't buy a house. And I wondered what that looks like in your community of Woodstock, if you've seen the same things, and just any thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like wasn't it like Kingston and like Rhinebeck were like the 2 highest,
for like the highest property values after the pandemic, in the United States, like comparable to San Francisco.
What advice would you give to new arrivals on ways to weave themselves into their community, to plant roots there, to feel at home there? Because there can be a real feeling, especially now, of being an outsider.
Volunteering in your community as much as you can to meet people and to like provide what you provide to the community full on, and just like without any kind of strings or like compensation or anything like that, but just to really like become a part of your place. I think that's what I would say. Just become a part of your place.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And to use the skills that you have too, that you're like being, if you feel like there's a hole or something, if somebody asks you to help, then you just always say yes.
Yeah, you just do it, for sure.
So I wondered, you guys have been there almost 10 years, what you've noticed as far as the climate in your area, because I certainly have noticed a change since the beginning of living here to now.
I don't know. I guess this summer specifically was like crazy dry. Yeah, this summer specifically was crazy dry. I don't know. It's kind of crazy weather up here for sure. Like it's like crazy humid.
But then the first 2 years that we lived here, Hurricane Irene ripped through here.
Right.
Literally leveled some stuff, ripped some bridges out. So it's always been kind of a crazy climate here.
Oh yeah,
that it's
that was
like
a crazy.
some winters are mild, some are like totally not. But this winter we had a crazy ice storm, insane ice storm. And then this summer we went to California to visit my family, and when we came back, I was like, it looks like California here. Like, why is all the grass brown and everything like kind of brown and dry? Like, this is not normal. Like, I've never thought, like, why does it look like California here?
I feel like the drought is just consistent throughout. I interviewed people in New Zealand for this season, and I interviewed people kind of all over, and they're like, there's been no rain whatsoever. That's pretty scary.
This area is a really water-rich area.
Yeah, it's pretty humid and rainy here.
Oh, and the aquifers and the reservoirs and all of that, and the streams and everything. Like, it's a pretty water-rich area. So, like, when it even is a drought, yes, the reservoir is lower, but it's still, like, pretty full.
I just wanted to give an enormous thank you to all of you who have made contributions to offset the production costs of this podcast. It means so much to me that you find enough meaning and value to pledge your support to keep this going. If you haven't had a chance to contribute, we've made it really easy for you. Just click the support button on the top of Urban Exodus website. You can also get access to bonus episodes, rapid-fire interviews, and our new mini podcast, Ditch the City, by signing up for our Apple Podcast Premium. Or you can become a member of the Urban Exodus online community, where you can access hundreds of photo stories, interviews, tutorials, videos, and more. Find out more by visiting the membership page on urbanexodus.com. You both are artists, right? In multiple mediums, basically. Marco, what's your creative process for music, from like creation to kind of finished piece? And Katie, it could be jewelry, it could be music, it could be screen printing, whatever one you want to talk about. Or maybe they're all the same.
Maybe they are.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, it's a little bit of an archaic idea, but like inspiration just like strikes me very randomly, either with like a jewelry piece, silk screen idea. I actually have been like, it's very much like this idea of the muse, like chasing this muse to like give you some kind of inspiration. And lately I've been like, where are you? When are you gonna come?
Have you ever paid attention to when it pops up? Are you hiking a lot? Are you gardening a lot? What are the activities that you're doing in your day where you feel like it hits you the most?
If we travel a lot, or if I travel a lot, then I come home after not working on something for so long, that's when it'll strike. Sometimes for me, it's like on the flip side where you're like, I get back from a family vacation, for 7 or 10 days or something, and I get back home and I'm like, the piano and my room and these synthesizers and this drum machine, the kids are in bed, let's go. Like sometimes it takes that moment of being gone for a while for you to just be like, boom. And like 3 song ideas could be written in this sort of hour time frame where you're just going, flow state, as you said earlier, where you're just like rolling.
So as someone that has had kind of a very long career as a professional touring musician, I think that a lot of musicians would aspire to be at that place of making music their lifelong pursuit. What advice would you give to emerging musicians on ways to get their work noticed and to reach a wider audience and like cultivate a community that supports your work?
I think it's important to have, to be out there touring and to be working. Like people forget, like you could write a song, right, and put it out on Spotify kind of, or put it out on a lot of platforms, no problem, right? But you gotta like back it up, and you gotta tour, and you gotta play, or you gotta follow it up with something. At least that's where I come from. If you want to be a touring musician, if you want to play shows for people and for more and more people as you are evolving and growing, I feel like it's important to do that. And it's also important to have somebody help you, like having a manager, or having a booking agent, or preferably both. And then you get other people working for you and having them help you with the things that they know more about than you. I feel like a lot of musicians try to do it all themselves, and I still do a lot of things myself and stuff, but you need help from other people. Even, advice to anybody starting a business or any company, it'd be smart to have somebody help you with some stuff. Also publicity, getting somebody to make sure you're on certain websites and you're getting interviewed by them. And, when you go to a website you like, see if you can get interviewed on that website. Just simple things like that. Never give up. Never give up. If you really love it, just keep on writing music, and hopefully somebody will listen to it or like it. And also, music is something that should be shared with people. So you have to collaborate with people. I think that's another good advice. Play with as many people in your town as you can, or meet all sorts of different folks in the music business that might be able to help you out. But, it can be done. It's just you can't do it all yourself. More advice: take as many gigs and do as many things as you possibly can, because you never know what might lead to the next thing. So don't rule out things that you think might be not worthwhile, or something. I don't know. You never know what the heck is going to happen.
At what point did you know that you felt comfortable bringing on a manager or finding a manager? Because I think that that's another thing that is tricky when you're kind of first starting out, because being a musician is really like starting a business, starting a jewelry business, starting anything. It's when do I bring on help?
It was early on, Alyssa, where we were we should get a manager. This was when I was 23, 24, and I was playing in the city a lot, and we were starting to grow and starting to get bigger gigs. And, it was just the thing that other bands did. They had managers. It made you look like you kind of had your shit together or something, and even if the manager kind of didn't know what was up, but still he liked you, he wanted to support you. And then he could help you get a booking agent. Then the booking agent books all these other bands, and he could connect you with all these other bands that you could open up for or whatever. It was something I did early on, I got to say, early on.
That's tricky. You have to find people that you really, really trust, because your job is so busy and so involved and such a different skill set too, that it's tricky to do it all. And so I wondered about that. I also think it's interesting that, there's kind of this narrative that people can't make a living using their creativity. You guys both kind of disprove that statement. I wonder if you have any thoughts on why we kind of scare people to believe that isn't an option for them, when, there are so many opportunities, I think, to create a business for yourself.
I mean, maybe it's just because of the way the patriarchy has set up our capitalistic culture in the United States and in the Industrial Revolution, and then all of that came after. And so the narrative isn't there for that. But I think that the whole time Marco was talking and just talking about what is your advice to musicians? And I kept thinking about what my dad has even said about his own career is it's hard work and talent and hard work and luck, all of those things. But the hard work part is the part that's very easy to not do, because you're oh, this isn't going anywhere. Oh, nothing's happening. But just keep on working on it. And I think that our culture also is shifting away from this old sort of structure, and people are looking for more local merchandise or local enterprises and things to support, and that people actually making the music or making the art or making the clothes or making the food or making those things, those craft things are becoming more important to humanity as we've gotten so far away from it and seen what it has brought us. So I think that it is a good time to invest yourself, if you are an artist, into doing it and believing in it and hustling, the hard work part. Just, it's a job, it's work. and it's worth doing. And also, I think you have to be a good person too.
Looking back on your journey from city to country, you're about 10 years out now. What are the main things that you've learned about yourself, about community, and just about the power of reconnecting to nature?
I've learned that I definitely love living in the country. I still, to this day, I look outside our window. I'm like, I can't believe we live here. I love this. I love living here. I love going on walks around our pond. Katie loves going on hikes. We know the importance of nature and fresh air in our lives, and like we take advantage of it when we can here. So I love that. I'm in here working and practicing and playing and recording, and then I'm just like, I got to go outside, and it's the best reset button ever. And when you go to the city, or I go to other people's places or whatever, and I'm like, where's the reset button? This is crazy. There's no moment. You can maybe go to the roof deck for a minute or somewhere, but it's just having nature around all the time is like just calming, soothing. I mean, I love being home. I hope that this studio helps me sort of be home a little more than on the road. So I know the value of being home and being, around our own land and working on our property. I love it. So I'm changed in the way that I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be here. I just want to like work on the garden and like hang out with the animals, or just, I don't know, mow the lawn and like, yeah, I don't know, that's it. Or grow plants and, all sorts of fun stuff. What about you, babe?
For me, I think like living in the city, you're surrounded by people, even though you don't have to like know them or ever talk to them, but like something about that aspect of the city was comforting to me because I was never alone. Like there were people upstairs, or there were people through the wall, or there were people, like there were just people around. And here I found that I have made a lot of friends because I like to have people around. I also do enjoy like the time where then there's no people around, and it's all, like our pond or trees or a hike up the mountain or whatever. But it's a funny balance for me because I'm like, maybe it's because my husband leaves for weeks at a time that I'm like, what do I do? I don't know. So I've created a community of people whereas in the city, like I never felt like I needed that as much because there were just like secondary people all around me all the time.
Yeah, I think that sometimes you can feel lonelier in a city, even though there are people everywhere, because you do feel just comforted that they're there, even if you aren't connected to them. And then if you don't have any friends in a rural area, you really are so isolated. But then you could just really have nature be your friend, which is like you wanting to stay at your house all the time.
I do like trees and plants and mushrooms and streams and acorns and all the things.
Do you have anything that you'd like to share from a personal or business perspective? And how can people listen to your music, find your art, and kind of follow your journey?
You can find my art and my journey, KT Benevento, on Instagram, or ktbenevento.com is my website. And what was the first part of that question?
Do you have anything exciting to share from a business or a personal perspective? And then I guess the other thing was, when is the concert that you throw, the festival? Are you doing it again next year?
Definitely, it'll be again next year. It
Yes,
will
Father's Day.
be Father's Day weekend, which is a great time. What your dad loves to go see live music, so you should bring him to the festival. And anything new and exciting coming. I mean, yes, there will be lots of new and exciting things coming up because the holiday season is coming up, and you want to give your friends and your family and people you love really cool gifts. I like to give people stuff, and you can buy that stuff on my website.
I just put out a new record, the record I made during the pandemic. It's me playing all the instruments, and it just came out a few months ago. So that was a big one.
What's the name of the record so everybody knows?
It's called Benevento, and that just felt right.
Follow him at Marco Benevento on Instagram.
Yeah,
22 Marco Benevento 22.
You can find me anywhere. Just Google me, baby. And I'm really happy about that new record because it's a weird one. You know, it was almost one of these records that I was like, do I put this out? Like, this is kind of a strange, like there's some weird instrumental, I don't know, it's just a little weird, and it's me trapped in the studio.
Probably was like art therapy, like a bit of mental health processing of stuff. I think it's interesting to see the work created by artists during the pandemic because it was such a intense time that we were all like responding and processing in different ways, and how that manifests in people's art is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And
it's a really good record.
Yeah, upon listening back, like now that I'm like, we're about to gear up, I guess this is also some other news. We're going to gear up and do a West Coast tour. So we're touring from San Diego to Seattle. We're doing about a 2-week tour, and I haven't done a 2-week tour since before the pandemic. So I'm excited about that. At least being on the road that long. I've done runs of shows, but never that long. I'm teaching my band all the music from the record, and we're like trying to figure it all out. And as I'm listening back to it, I'm like, oh, right, I'm glad I put this out. This is cool. I like this stuff.
Thank you again, Marco and Katie, for joining us on the show. Some of my key takeaways from this episode. To all of the makers out there, don't be afraid to experiment with new techniques and mediums. Although Katie had spent her career making jewelry, the pandemic forced her to expand her offerings and try something new. Now, she has diversified her customer base, increased her revenue, and brought some nice variety to her days. Second, music is an incredible connector. It brings people together to dance, laugh, cry, and feel. The life of a professional musician is not easy. It requires a lot of sacrifice and time away from your family. Support musicians by attending their shows. Touring is one of the only ways that musicians can make a living, and they took a massive hit during the pandemic. And lastly, community is a safety net in hard times. Being a member of a community means being there for people when they need you. And, in turn, they are there for you. When people need your help, say yes as much as you are able. Boundaries are important to maintain your own health and balance, but contributing your time, energy, and resources to your community will come back to you should you ever need a helping hand. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Urban Exodus podcast. This is a listener-supported program that is only made possible through your continued support. And if you haven't already, we would really love it if you'd leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever service you listen on. And please recommend Urban Exodus to your friends. An enormous thank you to my incredible producer, Simone Leon, and my amazing editor, Johnny Saul, and my music man, Benjamin Bethurum. And thanks to all of you for listening. I'm Melissa Hessler, and this is the Urban Exodus.